The last time I did a video talking about the Boy Scouts of America, it was talking about them merging with the Girl Scouts, and I pretty much had an issue with that. And I know, and I'm actually glad that I got some feedback behind it, but it was it was silly, like them merging with each other. And I know why it really was, because the Girl Scouts really wasn't gaining any traction. I said the only thing they're really known for, to me, and I'm not trying to be funny, are those cookies. That's really all that they're known for. The Boy Scouts is where all the fun happens. They even admitted that themselves, that the Boy Scouts have all the fun. They get to go on all the camping trips. They get to go, earn all these pins and badges and everything like that. Not saying that the Girl Scouts don't either, but they don't really do as much. And any girl or woman now who wasn't a Girl Scout could probably tell you that. But I'm not here to talk about that today. I'm here to talk about the pedophiles that are within the boy, and should not shock anyone, because I've come to realize that the Boy Scouts of America and the Catholic Church literally almost work like a pair. It's just that they're two different entities, but they run almost the same type of, I guess you could say, debauchery yacht. That they're pretty much all on the same cruise. So this article that came from NBC News states, Boy Scouts of America have a pedophile epidemic. That's a very loaded quote right there. Pedophile epidemic. And are hiding hundreds in its ranks. They said the abuse and scouting lawyers said they've identified 350 predator scoutmasters and represent 800 victims. That's a lot of people. That's over 1,000 combined. And I'm not in the least bit surprised this happened. And I bet you I know where most of it happens at. I bet most of this happens on those camping trips, because a lot of the times the boys are not there with their parents. So they're ripe for the picking for those leaders. Like, they probably had them set their sights set on them the minute they decided they wanted to be a part of the Boy Scouts, but they couldn't do anything because their parents were always around. But then the minute they go on those camping trips and the parents aren't there, and those camping trips be like a week long, anything can happen in those cabins. The Boy Scouts of America are continuing to cover up a pedophilia epidemic within their organization, a group of lawyers alleged Tuesday in a new lawsuit. The abuse of scouting lawyers said they've identified 350 previously unknown scoutmasters and volunteers who allegedly preyed on boys and whose names were not known to law enforcement or in the BSA's internal database, which critics have called perversion files. You can't look at these files and not come to the conclusion that this was a massive problem that was hidden, attorney Tim Kosnoff said at a press conference. We know that when a pedophile abuses a victim, it's not just one. So each of the 350 abusers have dozens of other victims who have not come forward. The revelation that the lawyers had identified a small army who they claim are previously unknown scout sex abusers was contained in the lawsuit filed Monday in Philadelphia by a Pennsylvania man identified only as SD, who claims he was assaulted hundreds of times over the span of 4 years in the 1970s. SD, who lives in Wilkes-Barre, identified his attacker in the lawsuit as Paul Antosh, who also lives in the Pennsylvania city. I just heard about this lawsuit. Antosh, age 62, told NBC News when reached by phone at the Poconos motel he manages. Asked if the allegations are true, Antosh said, "I'm in the process of hiring counsel." Well, he didn't say yes and he didn't say no. And just by him saying that, it leads me to believe it's more towards a yes than a no. The complaint also names the Boy Scouts and the Penn Mountains Council. BSA knew for decades that sexual predators of boys had infiltrated scouting. In response to questions from NBC News, the BSA said it was reviewing the spreadsheet the abuse and scouting lawyers sent them and continuing to manually search paper records at the local level to see if we can identify more information about the additional alleged perpetrators identified in the plaintiff's attorney's list. We immediately investigated the limited information provided, and our efforts have already resulted in approximately 120 reports to the lead law enforcement agency in each state with an accusation of abuse. We have also contacted local law enforcement for all the cases in which enough information was provided to identify the correct agency. In a quick review, the Abuse in Scouting Lawyers spreadsheet, NBC News found that at least half a dozen former Scout leaders had been previously unmasked as predators and were listed in the BSA's so-called perversion files. NBC News also asked the BSA whether ADOS was still involved in scouting. There was no immediate response to that question from the scouting organization. The BSA, which has been hit with a raft of lawsuits by former scouts who said they were victimized, had acknowledged that it has maintained ineligible volunteer files since the 1920s that contain the names of alleged predators. But the organization insists the internal database is a tool designed to keep sexual abusers out of scouting and has denied hiding the names from law enforcement of scout leaders accused of molesting boys. Facing mounting legal costs from defending itself against lawsuits, the venerable nonprofit organization said in 2018 it began considering filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Founded in 1910 and long considered a bastion of traditional values, the BSA has had as of 2016 more than 1.26 million Cub Scouts, nearly 830,000 Boy Scouts, and around 960,000 adult volunteers. Abuse in Scouting, also known as AIS, consists of lawyers from 3 different law firms who have banded together to take on the BSA. Speaking at the National Press Club, Eisenberg said the ADOS case is the first of many lawsuits against the BSA to come. He said there are 800 or so clients range in age from 14 to 88. Most of the victims are from Texas, where the BSA is based, in states like Florida and North Carolina. Many of the victims can still recall the smell of the man who crawled into their bag. These are powerful narratives. Even more troubling, Kosnoff said just 4 of the 800 victims identified the same abuser. Everybody is identifying another abuser. As for predator scoutmasters, they are all over the country and from a variety of professions. Asked if any of the alleged scout abusers are still involved in scouting, Kosnoff said, "We asked the BSA to help us identify these perpetrators. We hit a stone wall with the Boy Scouts." So the lawyers put out a TV spot in February urging victims to call their offices. It was slow at first, Kosnoff said, but once the phone started ringing, they have not stopped. Eisenberg called on Congress and local prosecutors to take a closer look at the BSA. He said they would also be happy to share what they have found with local law enforcement. Like I said, this right here, this particular story right here does not surprise me in the least bit, because I've actually heard stories like that over the years. And like I said, most of that stuff happened when they was on camping trips. And like I said, they said these individuals crawled into their bag. When they say their bag, they're talking about their sleeping bag, and inappropriately touched them or rubbed them and all types of stuff. Like I said, there's some pervs out here. A lot of them. And they're giving them all kinds of protection that they do not need or deserve. But hopefully they manage to get as many as they possibly can. But that's a lot of names that they got to cipher through. That's a lot of people. I think they said, what was it? How many was it? 350 predators and 800 victims. That means that they have messed with multiple boys at a time. Each and every last one of them had to. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. I will talk to you in the next one.